Welcome to the Passive Income Machine podcast, where we show you how to break free from the grind and achieve real financial freedom in 10 years or less. My name is Ryan D. Lee, and I've helped thousands turn income into cash flow, trade fake money for real assets, and take back control over their time, their wealth, and ultimately their life. Each week, you'll get strategy, tools, and mindset to build your own passive income machine. So my friends, sit back, relax, and enjoy today's episode. All right, my friends, welcome back to the Passive Income Machine podcast. You are on the microphone today with me, Ryan D. Lee, and today we're going to be in part 2 of the two-part episode of really life is going to give you what you tolerate. In the last episode, we talked about this concept, this idea that your life is a reflection exactly in this moment right now of what you've tolerated. If you're willing or unwilling to accept any more of what you have to tolerate something different. You have to not tolerate what is going on around you. So today we're going to be talking about how the system prints billionaires and why it's ultimately killing you in the process. So, my friends, in the last episode, I kind of opened up this idea of the financial problem. Should billionaires even exist? That's the question that's going around today. But really what we talked about in the last one is exposing the billionaires are kind of like the smoke of a fire. We can look at the smoke and say something's going on. That's the billionaires, but it's the fire that's causing the issue. It's the fire that we want to understand, keep in control, and maybe even put out. And the fire is the financial system. Now, in the last episode, I talked a little bit about what the system is, and I do want to state in this episode, I do not morally agree with what the federal government is doing with the idea of constantly printing money, of devaluing our currency, of robbing the future productive ability of Americans by making dollars less and less valuable over time. I do not agree with it. Morally, I do not. And, I went into a kind of a deep, dark rabbit hole probably about 15 years ago as I really started researching and understanding how the federal system or how the government works, how our modern monetary policy works, and why it's destroying America's middle class. And honestly, I came out of that rabbit hole with two emotions. Number one, just a deep disdain for what the government is doing to us Americans. And I was so frustrated with it, and I wanted to rage against the machine. But on the other end of that, I realized I could use that. I could be a victim of that system, or I could use that system to win and try to preach it and teach it and help other people do the same as well. And so that's the crusade I've been on for the last decade plus, is using that system to benefit my family, to benefit those I love, to benefit those that I have stewardship over, to win in the game of money. And then I've been preaching it, teaching it, sharing with it. That is the passive income machine. The passive income machine is a modern monetary policy solution for the average individual to take control over their money and to use the printing press to print their financial freedom. And so anyway, with this being said, today we're going to go a little bit deeper. I'm going to show you exactly how billionaires are printed by design, how the modern monetary system actually creates them automatically, and while slowly draining the life out of the middle class. So, here's where I want to start. Back in the old days, the old days of Rockefellers, of Carnegies, of Vanderbilts, they built their fortunes by owning physical assets, things like oil, steel, railroads. It was easy to understand, right? Now, there was a lot of shenanigans, a lot of monopolistic, businesses that were formed. But at the end of the day, they were wealthy because of the businesses that they built, the solutions that those businesses brought to the economy, and the exchange that they created with the average everyday American. If you wanted to become a tycoon, you had to build a machine. That was really the pathway. But today, everything is so different. Today, you just need to own the right assets because we now live in a financialized economy. That means money, it's not actually wealth anymore. Money is kind of like melting ice. And if you're not converting it into assets, you're falling behind. It used to be a store of value. You used to be able to put a $20 bill in a bank account, earn a relatively good interest rate, and because inflation was very, very tame, the ability to take that $20 out of your bank account and buy roughly the same goods and services remained intact. In 1971, when we decided to go, now I say that horrifically, we did not decide to do this, when our government decided to take us off of the gold standard, this allowed the government to start printing money, which is a different form of taxation that is taxing you and me. Rather than taking it out of my paycheck, paycheck, they're taking it out of the value of my currency. And so when we really look at the taxation system, it's twofold. It's two sides to the same coin. They're either taxing us directly or they're taxing us indirectly. And every time you hear the word stimulus, bailout, what else? War, war on drugs, war in the Middle East, war on poverty. All of these things are the reasons that the government gives us. They're the marketing slogans for why they need to print more money. The big, beautiful bill, a marketing slogan for why President Donald Trump and, the rest of the government party is going to yet again turn on the printing presses. Every time there's more money flooding into the economy, it makes the dollars that we have less and less valuable. They don't tell us how much money has. I mean, you have to really dig deep to understand this system. But if you look at how much new money has been injected into the global economy in the form of US dollars in the last 20 years, it's averaged around 8%. That means no matter what they tell you inflation is, if they tell you it's 1%, 2%, or 3%, that's not true. What's really true is there is 8% more dollars chasing roughly the same level of goods and services, and many can argue less goods and services, which means your dollars are getting less valuable. So I want to break this down for you a little bit, how billionaires are printed, okay? So step number one, the government spends money it doesn't have, right? We are spending at a deficit, and we've been doing it ever since the year 2000. Step number two, the Fed then prints money to cover the gap. Step number three, the printing causes inflation. And step number four, assets, real assets like stocks, like real estate, like crypto, etc., they all inflate in value, meaning they're not necessarily more valuable in most cases. There's just more dollars chasing the same limited supply of assets. So the real question is, who actually owns the assets? It's the top 10%. It's those are the ones who really use inflation to their advantage. Those people who own assets, inflation makes them wealthy. And on paper, their wealth balloons simply because the government is injecting more money into the economy. It's nothing smart. They're not buying the right stock. They're not picking the right real estate in most cases. There is some expertise there. I don't want to overshadow that. But really what they're doing is they're just simply understanding how the economy works, how modern monetary policy works, and they're aligning their money with assets that rise in value as the government prints more money. The bottom 90%, the bottom 90% are the ones who are paying the price for inflation. This is why the middle class is getting squeezed out. This is not capitalism, it's financial engineering. And it's why billionaires aren't stealing your money. They're just the smoke indicating that there's a problem. It's the system that's redistributing money on behalf of those who understand how to position money. So here's where I want to start off on this podcast. I want to give you an updated definition of what an asset actually is, because again, if you want to win in this economy, it requires financial intelligence. And financial intelligence is the part of your brain, your mental capacity that you use to solve financial problems. And here's the reality, my friends. Every problem that we have in life to some form or degree is a financial problem. We're not taught how to use money. We're taught how to be cogs in a system. We're taught how to fuel the government system, the economy, and being trapped by that system. And when we become too trapped by that system, to vote for politicians who will say they'll spend more money, who will give us more entitlements, who will take from the rich to give to the poor. I don't know. But listen, we are becoming victims of a system, and this is actually what the government wants. The more dependent you are, the more they can count on your vote. So here's where we're going to go. If we want to talk about what money is, we have to get below the BS, below the crap, and really understand the truth behind the word. Words matter. Hey, quick break in the content. I hope you're enjoying and fired up about what you're learning here, because if you are, the How to Retire in 10 Years Summit is the next logical step. This event is where the magic really happens, where financial freedom moves from a dream into reality right this year in 2025. Early bird registration is open, and trust me, you want the exclusive bonuses that we're offering right now. It won't last, so hit the link in the description or just head over to retireintenyears.com and save your spot. I'll see you on the inside, and back to the show. Today, if you look up in the dictionary what an asset is, it says it's a resource that an individual or a corporation or a country owns or controls with the expectation that it will provide a future economic benefit. Now, yes, that points us in generally the right direction, but that's not a playbook for how billionaires become billionaires. So let's go one step deeper. I like Kiyosaki's definition because it's very simple, even though he misses the full contextual point. But Kiyosaki says an asset is something that puts cash in your pocket. Critically important. We do not want to put our money in a place that it's going to be eroded from inflation over the years. We want something that's going to grow in value and put money in our pocket. So here's my updated definition of an asset in our modern economy with all the financial shenanigans going on. An asset is anything a bank will lend against. Okay, a bank prints money. Money does not exist. Money is not a store of value. Money is numbers on a computer screen and it can be printed at will. So an asset is anything that a bank will lend against that produces income and increases in value over time. Okay, now the reason it has to produce income, if the bank is going to print money, we have to service the debt that the bank creates. So we want the asset to produce a stream of income that will allow us to own the asset and service the income. We also want the asset to increase in value over time because of inflation, meaning as there's more and more dollars in the marketplace, we want our asset to ride the demand, ride the economic system to become more valuable, to go up in value, again, not necessarily because it's more valuable, but because it rises with inflation. Okay, so an asset is anything that a bank will lend against that produces income and increases in value over time because it's in continuous demand and aligned with inflation in both cash flow and price. Now, the reason this is critically important is because once you have an asset and once you understand how the economy works, you can use the bank's money to buy assets. You can let time make you wealthy, and then you can use more of the bank's money to extract value from that asset 100% tax-free. That's how the billionaires are billionaires. They're not paying taxes like average Americans. They're not spending their money like average Americans. They're using money to buy assets and letting the economic system make them wealthy. In this economy, my friends, as hard as it is to accept, debt is money, and assets are the key to unlocking more of it. In fact, consider this: the compound annual growth rate of a single family home, an asset that is always in demand, over the last 70 years has been 5.4%. If all you do is put a 20% down payment, that's the money you have to bring to the table, and then you can go get the other 80% from the bank, that means your rate of return went from 5.4% to 27% because you used the bank's money to cover the 80% of the cost of owning that asset, and it's still going up by 5.4% with a compound annual growth rate. Simply because you're using leverage, your rate of return jumps from 5.4% to 27%. Do you see how wealth can accelerate? How it can balloon in a single decade or more of time? You can easily become a millionaire, a multimillionaire, and given enough effort and energy and input into a system, a billionaire. And it's simply because of the game that is being played. There is no limit to how much money you can access. There is no limit to how much money the government will print. There is no limit to inflation. It's ongoing until the system crashes. And the reason you want to own an asset that is always in demand is whenever the system crashes, there will be some form of new monetary system put in place, but assets will still be assets. Demand will still be demand. They'll just be transacted in a different form of an asset class. So here's the reality. If you use the bank's money to buy an asset that's going up by 5.4% per year, you're not just earning 5.4% on your money, you're earning 5.4% on money that doesn't even exist. I mean, it's so crazy. The bank printed 80% of the money you used to buy that asset. So why not earn a rate of return on all the money out there? So almost 50% of Americans own zero meaningful assets. Zero meaningful assets. And this is why they are being crushed. They're living paycheck to paycheck. And every time I hate using that word, we're not printing money. Every time us, the American people, lives in a system where the government is printing money to help, we're secretly stealing, or they're secretly stealing from them through inflation. Okay, college is unaffordable. Housing is out of reach. Debt is now the new normal. People are using debt to pay for debt. I mean, the government is. The government's trying to revalue their debt right now because they can't cover the cost of their debt. So if you're under 40, you've been handed a set of tools that literally do not work anymore in this system. And when this continues, as this problem continues to persist, the concept of populism, promises that are not able to be kept, they start to trap people and people start to become frustrated. When people are broke and frustrated, they vote emotionally. They want more free stuff. But the irony is that giving people more free stuff requires more deficit spending, which requires more money printing, which creates more inflation, which kills the middle class even more. And around we go until something big happens. This is how revolutions start. This is how nations topple. And we continue to march down this path almost blindly. And sometimes I think the government is blind. Sometimes I think they're reckless. Sometimes I think that they don't feel like it's their problem. They're just going to get theirs while they can, and then we'll pass the problem on to someone else. But whatever it is, the reality is what the reality is. And I can either be a victim of reality, or I can be a victor within this reality. So many people today are feeling hopeless. But here's what I want to tell you that will give you hope. Awareness is the first domino. If you know how the system works, you can stop playing the game that keeps you trapped, and you can start playing their game instead. You can build and own your own system, your own vault, your own strategy, your own freedom plan. And that's what this podcast is really all about. This podcast is about the passive income machine. The passive income machine isn't a concept to sell insurance or real estate. The passive income machine is a system to arm you, the hardworking, everyday American who wants to, you're not looking for a shortcut. You're just looking for a system that works in the economy today. The passive income machine is that system. You earn money one time. You put it in a system where you'll never lose it. You eliminate taxes. You can use leverage, turn $1 into $5, and then you use that system to buy assets, and you repeat that process until financially free. Anyone can do this if they're willing to, number one, become aware of the problem. Number two, raise their financial intelligence. And number three, have enough discipline to follow a proven principle-based system. That's why this podcast exists. So my friends, if you're a listener of this podcast, I'm going to invite you, as I have been on every episode up to this point, to attend our Retire in 10 Years Summit. My friends, you get one shot at this thing called life. One shot. Your time is your most valuable resource. And every day, every week, every month, every year you exchange in a system that's working against you, the more trapped you become. The only thing that will change that is you. A politician won't save you. The next big, beautiful bill won't save you. It'll just sink you further into the mire that you're already stuck in. The only way to become saved is to save yourself. Raise your financial intelligence. Join a community, our community, who will empower you with money to build and receive the economic system working on your behalf, to achieve financial freedom in 10 years or less, to let time and leverage and inflation make you wealthy instead of make you poor. So my friends, that's all I've got for you today. Thank you for listening on this episode. Share it with a friend, because friends, they don't let friends retire broke. All right, my friends, that's a wrap for today. If you're serious, though, about turning everything we talked about into your new reality, there's only one place you need to be. It's the How to Retire in 10 Years Summit. This is your chance to learn exactly how to unlock financial freedom and build passive income in 2025. Early registration is live right now with an exclusive bonus for our early action takers. Don't miss out. Head to the link in the show notes, or just head on over to retireintenyears.com, and I'll catch you at the summit.